The world woke up to a nightmare on February 28th, 2026, not a warning, not a slow escalation, but a sudden, coordinated strike that would change global geopolitics forever. In a single night, the United States and Israel launched one of the most aggressive joint military operations in modern history, targeting Iran's military bases, nuclear infrastructure, and, most shockingly, its leadership. Within hours, Iran's supreme leader was killed in a precision strike, triggering chaos inside Tehran and sending shockwaves across the entire Middle East. This wasn't just another conflict. This was the moment decades of tension finally exploded into open war. To understand how we reached here, we need to go back years, not days. The roots of this war lie in three major tensions: Iran's nuclear ambitions, its growing missile capabilities, and its influence across the Middle East through proxy groups like Hezbollah. For years, the United States and Israel believed Iran was slowly moving closer to becoming a nuclear power. Diplomatic talks in early 2026 failed, mainly because Iran refused to fully limit its missile program or allow strict international inspections. From Israel's perspective, this wasn't just a political issue, it was an existential threat. And when diplomacy failed, war became inevitable. The operation that triggered everything was called Operation Lion's Roar. On paper, it was a preemptive strike. In reality, it was a declaration of war. Within hours, dozens of Iranian targets were hit across multiple cities. Military bases, missile depots, command centers, everything was targeted at once. Intelligence agencies had spent months mapping Iran's defense systems, and the goal was clear: cripple Iran before it could respond. But Iran did respond. Within days, Iranian missiles began raining down on Israeli cities. Despite advanced missile defense systems, several strikes got through, hitting residential areas and causing civilian casualties. Airports shut down. Panic spread. The message from Iran was simple: this war would not be one-sided. At the same time, Iran expanded the battlefield beyond Israel. US. Bases across the Gulf, in countries like Qatar, Bahrain, and the UAE, came under attack. This turned a regional conflict into something much bigger, a direct confrontation between Iran and the United States. And then came the most dangerous move of all. Iran began targeting the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical choke points in the global economy. Nearly 20% of the world's oil supply passes through this narrow waterway, and any disruption here can shake the entire planet. Shipping slowed down. Insurance costs skyrocketed. Some ships refused to pass through entirely. Within days, oil prices surged toward $120 per barrel, triggering fears of a global economic crisis worse than the 1970s oil shocks. Financial Times. This is where the war stopped being just about Iran, Israel, or the US. It became a global crisis, but the escalation didn't stop there. On March 13th, the United States launched a massive bombing raid on Karg Island, Iran's most important oil export hub. Over 90 military targets were destroyed in what was described as one of the most powerful airstrikes in Middle Eastern history. The US deliberately avoided hitting oil infrastructure, for now, but made it clear that could change at any moment. Just days later, Israel escalated further by striking Iran's South Pars gas field, one of the largest gas reserves in the world. This single attack disrupted around 12% of Iran's gas production, causing immediate energy shortages and triggering retaliatory strikes from Iran across the Gulf. At this point, the war had entered a dangerous new phase: energy warfare. Instead of just targeting military sites, both sides began attacking economic lifelines: oil fields, gas plants, shipping routes. The goal was no longer just military victory, but economic collapse. And this is where things get even more complicated. Even within the alliance of the United States and Israel, cracks started to appear. The US wanted a limited war, focused on weakening Iran's military and forcing negotiations. Israel, on the other hand, pushed for something much bigger: complete regime change in Iran. This difference in strategy created tension between the two allies, raising a critical question: is this war actually controlled, or is it spiraling? Because history shows one thing very clearly: wars like this don't stay contained. Iran is not Iraq, it's not Afghanistan. It's a regional power with allies across the Middle East. Groups like Hezbollah in Lebanon have already started launching rockets into Israel. There is a real risk that countries like Saudi Arabia Turkey, or even Russia, could get pulled into the conflict, directly or indirectly. And then there's the biggest fear of all. Nuclear escalation. Iran has long been suspected of being close to developing nuclear weapons. If the regime feels existentially threatened, it may decide it has nothing left to lose. On the other side, Israel is widely believed to possess nuclear weapons, even though it has never officially confirmed it. If this war crosses that line, the consequences would not be regional, they would be global. So what happens next? There are three possible futures. The first is controlled de-escalation under global pressure. Both sides could agree to a ceasefire. The US might push for negotiations, and Iran, facing economic collapse, might agree to limits on its nuclear and missile programs. This is the best-case scenario. The second is prolonged regional war. The conflict continues for months or even years, spreading across the Middle East. Oil prices remain high. Economies suffer. Proxy wars intensify. This is the most likely scenario. And the third is full-scale global escalation. More countries get involved, alliances are tested, and the war expands beyond the Middle East into something much larger, something the world hasn't seen since World War II. Right now, we are standing at a turning point in history, because this war is not just about Iran. It's about power, energy, control, and the future of the global order. And the scariest part? This war has just begun.